I've been a bit slack with my updates lately, so I thought I'd do a quick one now because I've done a little bit of work. Don't remember exactly where I was in my last one, but since then I have tapered and started to bind the fingerboard. Ooh. Done the two sides. They still need to be levelled. They're very high, and I haven't done the end yet, so that's just on its way. Quite a long ways from done, but making progress on that. The things I have been working on mostly are the neck pocket and the tenon. As you can see, they fit pretty bloody snug. That's not glued in either, that's just sitting in the pocket there. The joint is pretty close. I wouldn't call it perfect just yet, but it's pretty close. And I have started doing some sanding on the top, but not very much. It's pretty slow going, so I just do it when I get sick of doing the other jobs. But neck there. One of the next things I'm going to need to do is cut the neck profile. There's still two big cuts to go on this neck. One is the profile and the other is the taper. So the neck needs to span out like that rather than be flat on the outside. And I'm going to do the profile first because I've still got a nice square edge to run it through the bandsaw. And then when it comes to cutting the profile, I'll just have to make do with the fact that when it comes to cut the taper, I have to make do with the fact that it's profiled on the back when running that through the bandsaw. So one way or the other, I'm going to have to manage, and the profile I think is most important to have a nice flat surface for. So I'll do that first, but not sure exactly when I'm going to do it yet. Also need to glue some ears on the outside of the headstock on these sides because the headstock will be wider than the neck length. It's kind of where I'm up to. So just milling around those things at the moment. So I'll keep going and I'll give you an update sometime soon. Cheers. I thought I'd take a quick minute to show you what I'm doing here. The binding as glued on is quite tall, much taller than it needs to be for a fingerboard. So the job I'm doing now is trying to get it down and level with the board itself. I sanded down a bit of it, but I was having some issues with it, the board sticking down to my jig, and just sanding was a bit of a pain. So now I've busted out my scraper. This is just a utility blade, a couple of bits of vinyl tape on it to protect surfaces from the ends. And what I'm doing is just scraping away, like so. Fairly tedious job, but it needs to be done to get it all down nice and level. It's going to take a little while, and you see it comes off very fine. It's going to take a while, so I won't film it, but at the end I'll get it down to its level, and then I will run the radius beam over it with some relatively light grit of sandpaper just to get it all nice and even and keep the radius going the whole way across, all the way to the edge of the binding. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now. Right, I've sanded and scraped the binding down now so it's nice and level with the board the whole way along. Looks quite nice. It's still thicker than it needs to be, like this way, but I'll tidy that up later once I've done the neck to the right taper. Next thing I'm going to do is the profile of the neck. I'm going to cut it out on the bandsaw, and then I'll use drum sander and the drill press to tidy all that up. So that's now. Here we go. bit slack with my filming, so I'm going to give you an update of what I've done, and then I'll probably post what I've got so far online. Some progress has been made all around since I last updated, except maybe the fingerboard. I've shown you this already. It's bound all around now, but it does still need good sand, but functionally it's done. The neck has been profiled. It's not perfect yet, it doesn't need to be really. It's going to be shaped later on and that'll fix everything. I've also glued on the ears for the headstock. There's a little bit of a gap up in this top corner here. The pieces that became the ears flexed a little bit after they were sawed, so I had to try and get them back into shape, and one of them just moved back a little bit. Doesn't really matter, just don't use that bit when I make my headstock. The reason I haven't cut out the headstock yet is because I haven't decided what I want it to look like. I've been procrastinating on that a bit, and I need to make that decision soon because the rest of the neck's basically ready to go. Then on the body, I have been working on the carve. Now, it still has a long way to go, but you can see there it now has this beautiful little belly going on. I still haven't done anything up around these bits. I'm just working my way around. It's pretty slow going, but I'll get there. When that's done, I'll tidy up these cutouts here. So there's still a long way to go. Behind the camera is a headstock overlay being glued, which I made out of a piece of this stuff, Merbau or something. It's a cheap hardwood from just the local hardware store, and ironically has more figure in it than any of the rest of the expensive wood on this guitar. What this is, it was one of these. I've cut it in half, book matched it, thinned it down so it's about 2 millimeters thick. I'm gluing the two halves together. It'll be glued here. I'll cut a little angle into the end so it forms a little right angle where it ends up there, and that will be where the nut sits. So that's the function of that little piece. And I also made a jig that I should show you for routing binding channels. So I'll show you that and then we'll wrap it up. This here is a jig to route a binding channel in a carved top guitar. The reason you need something like this is because a carved top guitar isn't flat along here. So if you were to just rest a router on here, it would tilt with the carve and you wouldn't get a true channel. It would move as you go around and not be straight. So you make something like this. I made this for about $6 out of a few parts from the hardware store and things that I had lying around, if you don't count the laminate trimmer. It has this little donut-shaped bit of wood on the underside. When you use the jig, that rides on top of the guitar, just barely touching. So it sticks with this flat area right around the edge. It is on runners, so when you get to the parts up around here, the binding channel actually needs to rise up and then come back down again. This being on draw runners, it means this can move up and down, and it will move with the body of the guitar. So that's my binding channel jig. It will be used for cutting the purfling, which is the single black line I'm going to have running around the guitar. A slot for that, and then a slot for the white binding that sits on the outside that'll be thicker. And we're not too far off needing to cut that channel. A few things I need to do next is that channel. I need to do the round over on the back of the guitar. After I do that, I need to drill a hole for the input jack. I'll need to glue the neck. I'll need to glue the fretboard onto the neck. Shaping the neck to do the headstock. There's still heaps to go, but it's coming along nicely. Pretty happy with it so far. So yeah, thanks for tuning in.